The world is yourself pushed out. 6 words, a lifetime of implications. If Neville Goddard was right, nothing you're looking at right now is truly outside you. It's you, reflected back. Neville Lancelot Goddard was born in Barbados in 1905 and left for New York as a teenager, eventually trading a life on the stage for a life spent studying the mind. He never claimed to invent anything new. He read the Bible the way other people read poetry, not as history, but as a coded description of what happens inside a person every day. Out of that reading came a philosophy built on one core premise. Consciousness isn't a byproduct of reality, it is reality. Consciousness is the one and only reality, he wrote in The Power of Awareness, and he meant it literally. Not a mood, not a filter, but the actual material the world is made from. If that's true, then the search for a better life was never really about circumstances at all. It was about the self doing the imagining. This is where Goddard's best-known idea takes shape. Live from the end, he taught. A discipline, not a wish. Most people wait for evidence before they allow themselves to feel something is true. Goddard flipped that order entirely. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, he'd say, insisting the feeling comes first and the fact follows. It sounds almost too easy until you sit with how hard it actually is. To feel something is already yours before a single thing around you has changed. He wasn't asking for blind optimism. He was describing a kind of discipline. Do not accept the evidence of your senses if it denies your fulfilled desire, he warned. A line that still makes people uneasy, because it asks you to trust an inner conviction over the very thing you can see and touch. For Goddard, the senses only report on what has already been assumed. Shift the assumption, he argued, and eventually the senses will have something new to report. That idea of assumption sits at the center of everything he held to be true. Your assumptions, though false, if persisted in, will harden into fact, he maintained. Not as a comforting slogan, but as something he treated with the same consistency as a rule, not a passing mood. Persistence, not intensity, was the key. A single hopeful thought changes nothing. A steadily repeated one, held long enough, becomes the shape of a life. Assumption, if persisted in, becomes reality, he added, as though inviting the listener to test it for themselves. None of this, in Goddard's view, required permission from the outside world. There is no one to change but self, he insisted, placing the responsibility for change on the one place most people never think to look. It's a strangely freeing idea, and a slightly unnerving one in the same breath. If there's no one else to blame, there's also no one else to wait on. He returned, again and again, to the imagination, not as escapism, but as a working tool. Imagination creates reality, he stated plainly, and in a fuller passage, imagination is the beginning of creation. For Goddard, imagination wasn't decoration laid over a fixed world. It was the architect underneath it. You become what you contemplate, he observed, suggesting that whatever occupies the mind long enough eventually surfaces in the shape of a life. And yet, for all the emphasis on inner conviction, Goddard's teaching was less about escaping the self than elevating it. To reach a higher level of being, you must assume a higher concept of yourself, he believed, not through pretending, but by genuinely inhabiting a better version of who you already believe yourself to be. You are already that which you want to be, he told his listeners, as if the destination and the traveler were never truly separate. He described the practice almost like prayer, though not the kind most people were raised on. Prayer is the art of assuming the feeling of being what you desire to be, he explained. Less a request sent outward, more a posture held within. And that posture, he was clear, needed focus above all else. Attention is forceful in proportion to the narrowness of its focus, he noted, a reminder that scattered wishing rarely moves anything at all. Goddard died in 1972. The questions he raised outlived him. Are we simply witnesses to a world that happens to us, or are we, in some quiet and largely unnoticed way, its authors? He never asked anyone to take his word for it. He asked them to test it, to change the assumption first and watch what followed. So maybe the real question isn't whether Goddard was right. Maybe it's simpler than that. What are you assuming about yourself right now? And would you consider assuming something better? I'm grateful for the moments shared in discourse. May our paths cross again in the fullness of time.